is that the rest of you can just go throw stones in the lake. We don't care. It is actually an accusation. As they say, a picture says more than a million words. Yeah. And that's what it is. So I wrote a note asking the UPND to explain what they mean by doing this, by putting 3 provinces there and leaving the other 7. And so that we can understand what it is they're saying. And only a day after that, President HH answered while he was in Congo and talked about these same issues. Yeah. Now, that is very dangerous. It is extremely dangerous. What is he hoping, or what does he think that the rest of the 7 provinces, which were not included in this, are going to think? What is the reaction, for example, of me, who comes from the Eastern Province, when I see that Eastern Province is not put there? It is like I'm being told off to just piss off. I mean, basically, that it doesn't matter how well I will vote. And I think that is divisive. Now, if you compare that picture with the actual voting pattern that they have been in this country, you will see that let me compare Eastern Province and Southern Province. Eastern Province in 2021 had registered voters were almost 900. Okay, I think it was 890 something. Southern Province had registered voters of 700 and something. So Southern Province was smaller than the Eastern Province by 114,000 votes. Okay. Now, when we look at how both of these provinces, the voters reacted, you will see that in Southern Province, 84% of those who were registered turned up to vote. Yeah. Okay. In Eastern Province, 63% turned up to vote. So there was a difference of literally 21%. Okay. Then in terms of those people who actually voted for HH, in the Southern Province, 92% voted for HH. In the Eastern Province, 54% voted for Edgar. Now, in terms of the final tally, HH got 601,000 votes in Southern Province. Right. ECL got 308,000 votes in Eastern Province. A difference of half. Yeah. And a difference of half when Eastern Province had a higher number of registered voters than Southern Province. Now, the question you are asking is that why is this happening? Okay? And when you interpose what is happening between these 2 provinces compared to this picture of the 2 young ladies with them listing the 3 provinces, there is a deliberate contrast at that being made. And what they're basically saying is that our strongholds, people go and vote. And when they go and vote, they give other people 0 and they give our candidate 92. So I want to be able to say, if that is the philosophy that the UPND is using, then those of us who have got strongholds, not from the perspective of tribe, but from the perspective of where the opposition won in 2026. So the opposition, Edgar Lungu, won in Luapula, in Mchinga, in Northern, and he won in Eastern Province. Those were his strongholds. So I want to be able to say to the people of Southern, to the people of Northern Province, to the people of Luapula, to the people, is that on the day, material day, millions of them, thousands of them must also get up. We must also try and get percentages of 75, 80% to turn up to vote. And when people are going to turn up to vote, we must also try to reach 90% for Brian Mundubile and Muhabi Lungu. Why? Because that is a message he's giving to his stronghold. And he's lacing it in tribalism. We will not lace it in tribalism. The reason is that his government has failed, and people must show him that it has failed, and people must show him that they will not disenfranchise themselves by staying home, but by standing up and going to vote. So for me, that is my message. And this is also for Lusaka and Copper Belt. I believe that already the indications are showing that Mundubile and Muhabi Lungu are doing very well in Lusaka and Copper Belt. I think Copper Belt Urban and Copper Belt and Lusaka Urban, we are definitely going to win as NRPUP. But we need to get up and vote and beat him thoroughly to show him that we are one Zambia, one nation.
Do you worry? You know, and I'm going to ask you a hypothetical question here. Yeah. Do you worry, that if UPND retained the presidency, the other 7, regions, could be worried?
Yes, I think that there is a basis of worry, and let me say it very strongly, and I put it as an individual.
Yeah,
I am afraid, as someone who is carrying a last name called Lungu. I am afraid. I am afraid for my children. I'm afraid for my brother's children. I am afraid for my uncle's children. Okay, because the way the UPND are carrying this matter of vendettas, because the assumption is that that these names were unkind to them, therefore we're going to revenge. I am afraid. And the police cannot come to my house to tell me and arrest me because I'm afraid that I might be disadvantaged. Now, I have said in many platforms, I've never been a tribalist in my life, Frank. My wife is a Southerner, and I'm proud, and I love my wife. I have raised 3 children in my house, and I'll mention them. One of them is Velingapi. It's a very Ngoni name, my daughter. This is my daughter. Yeah. I have raised a young lady called Nzala Nyanga. She's from the Southern Province. I've raised her in my house, and I'm in contact with all her relatives. I have raised an Alinja Washamwana in my house. Yeah. I've also raised other young people. And the fact that these are cosmopolitan, one is from Namwanga area plus Southern, one is from Southern plus Southern, one is from the Eastern Province, has never mattered to me. And when these people are going to apply for jobs, it ought to not matter what their last name is. Yeah. But the manner in which the UPND have been dealing with this manner, I can tell you that many people, apart from the 3 provinces which have been mentioned in there, are concerned about what their future is in a government which seems to have created a partition between us and them. Yeah. Okay, now they say, and this was part of the campaign they had, they said that the PF under President Lungu was tribal. That's what they were saying. I'm not. They were even circulating. A list of members of parastatals. Okay, and in PSs and so on. The UPND, if you recall, and to prove a point that President Lungu's administration was tribal. Yeah. Then they undertook that it would be different. Then they came over into power, and they made it. They went beyond what they were accusing their colleagues of doing because of thirst of revenge. So now, let me conclude by giving an example. I was in New York as a deputy permanent representative. My ambassador in New York at the time I was there was Dr. Simbiakula. Okay? We didn't come from the same group, and he was head of mission. And Dr. Simbiakula doesn't come from Eastern Province or Northern Province, for that matter. In Canada, they were, first let me go to Washington. In Washington, there was Ambassador Kapambo. Okay? In Brazil, there was, I forget the name, but there was none of the two. In London, there was General Mihova. Okay, so if you looked at the embassies, you could see that there was a degree of one Zambia, one nation. Today, at the embassy in New York, there is a Milambo. In the embassy in Canada, there is Vashepande. In the embassy in Brazil, there is a Southerner.
Washington.
In Washington, there's Chiwambakanyama. In England, there's Mazoka. In Germany, there's Natala. Okay? And you can go. In China, you can go. So they can deny all they want. And when we come to parastatals here in Zambia, you can look at the parastatals and who's leading them. Because you can see even on the news on ZNBC, when they are reporting, let's for example, they are moving from NAPSA to ZDA you can see the names. And they should not think that people are blind to those things. And that we can't see them. So when we express fears about the corrosion of one Zambia or one nation, it is not because we are being tribal. It is because some of us in the country feel that we have been excluded. And if it was true that At some point, the president the president of Volungu was doing the same. You were supposed to correct it and not make it worse. Now, here is the future. Brian Mundubile and Muhabi Lungu will not behave like that because they understand that the people of Zambia in 2021, part of the reasons they complained against that government was because they felt that not everyone felt that they were equal. They also understand that right now many Zambians are complaining that the government is not being equal on everyone. I know for a fact that Brian Mundubile and Muhabi Lungu will treat every Zambian as a Zambian, whether you are from Southern Province, whether you are from Northwestern or Western, whether from your Eastern Province. Everyone will be treated as a Zambian. We have to stop this appetite and thirst for revenge. We have to stop it. Let us be Zambia once again.
Right. You see why, some of us, feel tribalism is irrelevant, should be irrelevant, but we consent at the same time is because some of us, I come from Chinsali, but it's just the roots. Okay, my branches and leaves are on the copper belt.
Yeah.
And in Lusaka.
Yeah.
My second born is from a lady, from Southern Province.
Yeah.
A young man, Mwamba Mugwagwa.
Yeah.
So, why this is of concern is, what do I tell my son?
Yes.
What do I tell my son?
Exactly. That's what I was saying. Even for me, so it's worrying. Yeah. Just like you, Uncle Frank. I grew up my years of adulthood, adolescent and school and so on. I grew up outside the country, and I'm very grateful to the country and my father and so on. And one of the things that you do when you're outside the country, the thing that you realize growing up in America, coming of age in America, is the first thing that how you see yourself is that you are a black person.
Right.
You don't see all these other things. So first and foremost, I see myself as a black person.
Yeah.
Then as you go there, you even graduate because among your blackness, you realize that you are an African. So the next thing is that I am an African, okay? And then after that, you hear, okay, I come from a country called Zambia. Then I'm a Zambian, okay? Then I'm above everything else. Yeah. Then I'm a Zambian. Then after being a Zambian there, that is when I can be those other issues. And for me, that is how I see myself. Yeah. First and foremost, when I'm in my country, Zambia, I am a Zambian. I have some of my best friends. In fact, the least of my best friends come from the Eastern Province. Yeah. Most of my best friends come from Northwestern, Western, and Bembas. And we should not use power to divide this country.
Brilliant. All right. We have to move, pretty fast. But these are important issues we have to, iron out. The social media is awash, with some dirty stuff. Let me put it that way. I want you to comment on two issues. One on what JJ, your man, is saying, about in Nevas, Mumbai, the shrine and that lot, right? That's number one. The second, and we gotta be very quick. The second one is about yourself. There's a lady called Barbara Msambachama, and she said all sorts of things, doubted your quality. You're not a man, to trust. Wherever you have worked, you have been fired, and she ends by with a very. It sounds like she's a very bitter person. I don't know why to you, and whether you know her. And she says President HH has got national support across the country, and then she ends. Brickbat at you, saying Twale Nyuko Chivelish. Wow. Strong words.
Okay, yeah, they are very strong words, and you know, I started receiving this yesterday from a number of people, including my daughters, who are young. They are the same age with. I assume that from the picture there, I assume that they are the same age. And this morning when my wife. I told her that I was going to have a discussion with you. She said to me, "Don't talk about that lady. You just be promoting her." So I wasn't planning to do so, but you've asked me, so I will honor your question. But maybe let me first start with JJ. And then I will get to this. In addition to what you have written, somebody shared it with me. Where a letter purportedly has been written in which Nevers Mumba is supposed to be paid money by Zesco. And when I read it, it was outstanding that a special assistant to the president can write such a letter to Zesco for this purpose. So what I wanted to request is I want the government to say something about this. Is this letter true? Or is it not true? If it is not true, let them say that it is not true. Because if it is true, this is a scandal. It is an outrageous use of Zesco money to be used for this purpose. So I just wanted to challenge that. And if they say it is not correct, let them give us proof, not just to say fake, because I know that's what people like to do. So even if something is very clear, they say it's AI. So let them give us proof that this is untrue. And I also would like to give Nevers Mumba a challenge as to whether he was not anticipating this money and to do it for the reasons that they were doing it. So that is the first thing that I want them to refute. Then there is an issue to do with shrines. Again, I'm a Christian, and I like to say that I don't believe in witchcraft, but I do know that even within Christianity there is forces of the light and forces of the darkness, and sometimes people do undertake these rituals, and I just hope that we have not gotten to that level yet. I just hope. But when you see some of the things that is happening in our country, you begin sometimes to question as to really whether we are Christians. During this electoral process, in the last 2 weeks, we had 3 people killed. Okay, we had a driver who found his throat slashed. I think it is in Magoe, who is a driver to a independent candidate. We have had in Shawama here, in John Leng, a young man who was fixing a radio, and he turned it on to basically just have it tested, and there happened to have been a song for Mundubile and Muhabi there, and he was killed. You can imagine, for playing a song of an opponent in an elections. We have had an incident in Kaputa where a person was killed. And in this particular case, they suspended the elections and blamed all of us. In fact, the initial thing was to blame NRPUP. We are picking up information now that the person who is alleged to have done it surrendered himself to the police, and that it was an internal matter within the UPND. I hope that the police can issue a statement to either refute that or to acknowledge it and then to investigate. So for me, when you talk about things to do with the rituals and so on, what worries me more is some of the things that are happening in our country which we can quantify. Okay, I can't quantify the things to do with rituals, and I don't want to go that direction, but I can quantify the amount of fear that the UPND are generating towards their opponents, given the fact that they claimed that there was no cadreism. The candidate for Lusaka Central, Charity Lumpa,
Right.
Her convoy and her people in town 2 days ago, they were attacked. They smashed her vehicle. They beat a number of people to prevent them from campaigning. And the UPND had told us that all of these things were gone. Gary Nkombo, when he was going to file, they beat him. It's on. We've all seen it. And then later they charged him. Now, all of these things I'm saying are related to the electoral process and to our democracy. And I was pointing out to my colleague yesterday that if we see these things within the ambit of democracy, one electoral district, the Southern Province, has had no other political party win a seat allowed to campaign freely in 25 years. Southern Province by itself, again, let me say, I'm not being tribal. I'm giving you a fact. One province has been a de facto one-party state out of the 10 for 25 years. Uncle Frank, we define a generation as 25 years. For a generation, no other political party has been able to win a seat there. And you have to ask why. And so when you say to me about the future, if the UPND win, I hope that we will defeat them. I am working that we defeat them. But if the UPND win, it is possible that what has happened in one electoral block will be given into all other electoral blocks. It may be the end of our democracy, and that is the reason why I think that the UPND must be defeated. Now,
two issues, before. Have you finished about Musamba?
Yeah. I want to come and get to this lady, but let's go to something else. Yes.
All right. Yeah,
we'll come back.
We'll come back to Musamba. You were just talking about electoral issues, and this reminds me again. These issues, some of them which I'm raising them because they're important, but they are not the views of 5FM and even me. But I'm paid to raise very important issues. There was a report, not a report, online presence, that the president, met up, unconfirmed, met up with ECZ, staff, including, the chair, where they discussed IT, facilities, that they should purchase, IT facilities, in relation, to the elections at this late hour. That's one issue. The second issue I want to comment on very quickly. The voter register shows 8-point-something million registered voters. From reports, 9.1 million voter registration papers have been printed. Quickly comment on that. We got to move very fast.
Yeah. Well, I hope that these reports are not true, that the head of state is meeting the commission or the commissioners. I hope they are not true.
Yeah.
However, yesterday we held a press conference. The deputy SG, Kennedy Kamba, Honorable Japhet Mwakalombe, who is in charge of elections within the alliance, and myself, from the perspective of being a deputy coordinator for Lusaka province. We held a press conference yesterday, and there were three things which we were concerned about. And all of them had to be issues to do with the electoral process. So the first one is that we have picked up information that in certain areas, the ECZ are recruiting civil servants who are known to be affiliated to the UPND, to be presiding officers and to be officers of the electoral process in terms of the day of voting. And we raised an issue that if this is true, that we condemn it in the strongest possible terms. The issue that Honorable Brian Mundubile was referring to when he was saying we are warning civil servants not to behave in a manner for which they are partisan was in relation to this. And the hullabaloo that the UPND and Dr. Bene, I think from the union, are trying to pretend that this is not an issue, is, I think, very disingenuous, because every electoral season, the opposition always have felt that there is always a propensity of the commission to try and tip the scales towards the government. It never works, because we've moved in this country. We've removed incumbent government 3 times.
Yeah.
Okay, now this particular electoral commission, more than any others in the past, has received the most doubts about their independence. And the reason for that is that it is an undisputable fact that some of the commissioners have in the past clearly demonstrated that they have had a bias, or that they were members of the current administration, and we have just been ignored. So the first point was this thing to do with presiding officers. The next point, we as a party have found out that the accreditation process regarding monitors, regarding agents, polling agents for the various political parties, have not been started. And what the ECZ is saying is that it will only be done by online. And we know that in this country, our networks often fail, especially in the rural areas, where a great deal of people are. And we have made a demand. We even wrote, Jaffe Mwakalombe wrote a letter to the Electoral Commission that we are uncomfortable with this. We demand that you start doing the accreditation process now, and it should be physical. It can be both of them. It can be online and physical. In areas where that the online can work, fine, we don't mind, because we are progressive and but you can't say that it will only be physical. So I'm also using this platform to say this. Then, of course, there is the issue of these killings that are taking place. So we raise these issues. So this issue and the question you are raising regarding the independence of the Electoral Commission is something that we must argue about, especially now that we are only 30-something days remaining.
Before we quickly go to the papers, don't worry, listeners, we'll cover most of the issues in the next 15 minutes or so. And
we are running out of time already.
No, we'll be fine. We'll be fine.
But you asked me a question, Uncle Frank, about this lady. If I don't answer it, it will look like I'm running away. Okay. I want to answer it.
Very quickly, do that, and then we go back to the...
Look, the approach of UPND and their supporters is to denigrate and character assassinate the messenger if they do not have any answers to the content that are being raised. So this lady has gone beyond. Instead of her arguing against what I've been saying on the merit or demerits of the things that I'm saying and I'm pointing out, she has gone for my character. Okay? So whenever a person does that, they've lost the argument. That is the first thing. Now, I think that, and that is what they've been trying to do also to Brian Mundubile and Muhabi Lungu. Instead of answering to the questions that Mundubile has been raising regarding civil servants, regarding reserves and so on, they've gone for his character. Instead of President HH and the UPND going to a rally to argue against the manifesto position and the things that Mundubile has been saying, he's gone there to call them boys, okay, and to call them thieves, and to use Vapompwe. This is the same behavior that this lady is doing. So instead of answering to these issues, then you get it. So I want to answer this because this is not about me. So I want to contrast about myself and about Brian. To answer the president first and foremost, Mundubile and Muhabi have never been arrested for being criminals. Okay. The last time that Honorable Mundubile was called to the police and charged, it was about cyber security. The last time that they called him to the Anti-Corruption Commission was when it was quite clear that he had become a threat to them and a contender. There have been 4 years, and everyone who he thought he needed to fix He fixed it within the first 1 or 2 years. Okay, there was no accusation or allegation against Brian Mundubile until he became a threat. Okay, and they know that it was too late and there's nothing they can do about it. So the greatest thing is to throw as much mud at him. In this country, a person is innocent until proved guilty. Okay, there's no such a thing as for him to start calling Mundubile a thief. He's actually, it's actually being, he's being very petty. For a president who we know will come after your throat if you are a thief. Okay, so that is that contrast. Let me talk a little bit about myself. Uncle Frank, I don't like to boast. I really don't. But I have held more than 10 jobs in my career since I graduated in 1991. And good jobs too. I have never been fired from any one job. Never. In fact, more than half of the jobs that I've held, whether it was at the Japanese International Cooperating Agency, whether it was as director at ZDA, whether it was advisor to the government, whether it was a minister of finance, many of them I have been headhunted. I have been headhunted. Sometimes I have gone through interviews. Sometimes I have been given a job without any interviews because big people, not related to me, not related, not Easterners, not people from elsewhere who felt that the last job I did it well. And that is how it has been. I've held very, very decent jobs, and not once have I been fired. And lastly, I am one of those persons who have taken risks with his career. For the 35 years that I have been working, half of those I have quit jobs myself to pursue political career. And when the political career comes to a stage where I think I've done enough, I'm able to find a job like that because I'm competent. So
brilliant. All right. Before we go on break, the newspapers wash. Again, and you have to be very, and
of course, sorry, Uncle Frank, I just wanted to say something there. I have never, ever tried to be close to the UPND to get a job. Never.
Right. All right. Thank you for putting that, aside. Let's quickly go through the papers. All right. The headline here, from the boss, the president. I am chief spy. I know opposition is plotting to fidget with the votes. You rigging?
How are we going to rig? How are we going to rig? Because
that's what the president said.
No, I think that he's just frightened. 3 months ago, the UPND were saying there is no opposition. We are going to win by 5 million votes. Oh, whatever. They created such an echo chamber that every one of them believed that there would be no opposition. And within the last 4 weeks, all of a sudden it has dawned to them that there is in fact an opposition. And that there is a very good chance that the opposition might just overcome and that Mundubile will beat him. Okay? So this business is to prepare his people that there is a possibility that we might lose, but if we lose, the opposition will have been rigged. How does the opposition rig? Just a few. Okay, let me not overspeak. But it's just fear.
Mundubile under attack. That is threatening to get rid of civil servants, and it's been magnified big time by Hikaumba, who is questioning civil servants. Quickly on that.
Look, currently, in the administration of the UPND, again, this is factual. There are about, I am told there are about 300 and something civil servants that have been, who were removed immediately the UPND came into power from line ministries and are parked and domiciled at cabinet office. They don't know what to do with them. And one of the criteria that those civil servants are at the center there is because, according to the UPND, they had shown some sort of degree of favoritism to the opposition at that time. So when they came into power, they immediately made it, and these people are getting paid. Okay? And so on. So they made a complaint. against civil servants. And in fact, there is a video going around where HH is threatening civil servants and saying to them that when we get into power, if you are being unfair, we will sort you out. There is a video that is coming there. If you give me time, if we were not in the program, I could have found it because I've seen it.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
What Brian Mundubile was saying, he was not threatening all civil servants. To try and create that is to try and being dishonest. He was not threatening. He was specifically talking about those civil servants who, through their conduct, have made it known that they are politically active and have taken off the heart of civil servants who are not supposed to be politically active and have been. Now, that is wrong. And I would like to tell our Hikaumba and even Dr. Bene that I think that we should all agree that civil servants should be non-partisan and that any civil servant that is going to be able to start being political should be fired. And again, I'll give you my own personal example. Uncle Frank, I have been either a civil servant or pseudo-civil servant 3 times in my life, okay? When I was at the Ministry of Finance, in order for me to stand or to get involved in politics, I had to quit. That is what a responsible civil servant should do. If you want to get involved in politics, quit the service and go and face all of us on a fair basis. When I was at ZDA, de facto Deputy Director General of ZDA, I was persuaded by RB and others to stand. I had to quit. I broke my contract and didn't even get my gratuity because it is not allowed for me to be in the parastatal sectors and to behave as a politician. When I was a diplomat, for me, I resisted any attempt to be embroiled in the political process because I'm a civil servant. So if some of us are able to respect the Civil Service Code, why should we allow the UPND to abrogate it and to say that it is okay for the civil service to do it? Let me talk about Tabo. Just 1 second. I know Tabo Kawana very well. He's a permanent secretary for information. And I can say that he's my young man because I've known Tabo since the days of UNIP. Okay? But I have cautioned him on several occasions. Some of the things that they have given Tabo to do are political in nature. Okay? And the permanent secretary of information is not supposed to be delving in issues which are clearly political. And those should be done by what's his name, Mwitwa. Of course he's not there. But even he's not there, don't get political. You know, it is wrong. It's against the civil service regulations, period. Right.
You know, 2 quick ones, you know, and then we'll go to music. And you talked about video. We have to be, politicians have to be cautious of what you say yesterday. You know, it could haunt you today and tomorrow. You know, there's a video of my friend, he's a friend of mine, Winter Kavimba, you know, saying unimaginary things about HH, but today he defends HH. You have heard
No, I've seen it. I've seen the video. It goes around. As I said, people do pass these things around.
So what do you say about politicians then?
That is why we politicians must try to be as honest as possible to ourselves. And that people judge our character. Now, clearly what you said is that here is about Winter Kavimba, who used to say some very strong things. There is another video where he's talking about the tribalism of HH. It's not me. It's in that video. There is another vision where he talks about how unforgiving he is. I've seen these videos. And then if you have judged a character like that, then all of a sudden you flip. Then people start questioning you. Mao Sampa is the same. There's a video that is going around of Mao Sampa when he was very vile against HH. And then he's turned around and he expects us to believe him. There is a video of HH himself about the airports. I don't know whether you've seen that one.
Sausage stuff?
Yeah, when he's saying, he's actually condemning the building of an international airport the Lusaka International Airport, and saying that how can you spend 300 and something million when there are only 4 planes that land there in a day at the Lusaka International Airport, and then it flips and talks about him building international airports in the 10 provinces of the country. Let me say, as an economist, okay, the idea of building international airports in every province in this country is a ridiculous idea. I want to say it. It is a completely ridiculous idea. It doesn't make any sense. It is as if people are talking to children. There are even countries that are far, far wealthier than I.
South Africa has only three international airports.
So to try and delude people that you're going to build airport,
let's be real,
is reducing the intelligence of the voter, because it's not feasible. I can tell you that. It's absolutely not feasible. Then there is this issue to do with universities. I'm an educationist myself. My first career when I graduated from my master's was as a lecturer at the University of Zambia, and I was a teacher at the Lusaka International School teaching economics O and A levels before I was a headhunted to become special assistant to Dr. Kaunda, a job which I'm very proud of, and I can tell you that the 7 years I spent with him and the things and the people I met as a former head of state are far more infinitely to some former jobs which I later got in terms of the exposure that I got from the world. I'm an educationalist. The idea of saying that you're going to have a university in each province, even today, for me, I think that it is ill-advised. I think that it is better to ensure that the public universities that we already have, okay, are well managed, well funded, and raise their profile. You can't talk about building public university in Lundazi, where I come from. I think it's a harebrained idea. Let me say, even I hope the people in Lundazi are listening to me. To suggest that you should build a university in Lundazi when your premier university in Lusaka has been closed because of a sewerage problem is ridiculous. It is absolutely and totally
let me help
ridiculous.
you on that. You know, I served in in Italy as an ambassador. You know, what they do is, you know, again, this is what I've been talking about, identifying provinces in relation to economic activities.
That is right.
In every province. What they do in Italy is, you know, in Palermo, for example, in the north, they picked Palermo and designated it as a university city. So what I'm saying is, for example, Kabwe.
That is right.
Kabwe's got problems with economic activities, and because of the soil, you know, it's one of the most polluted cities in the world. So you designate Kabwe
as a university
city. All universities, you take them to Kabwe. And international universities, rather than spread them across the country.
And that is the reason why I was saying, so you agree with me, and I agree with you 100%. Let us ensure that the quality of the universities that are already there are top-notch. There was a time when students who graduated from the University of Zambia were effectively competing with even people with Harvard. And when you hear, what is this sister of mine who wrote this book called Dead Aid? Dambisa Moyo. We were together with Dambisa Moyo at the same time at the University of Zambia. There are Zambians who, there is this other gentleman who helped to discover the COVID vaccine. We were together with him at the university. I just forget his name, but he's a colleague of mine. I know people throughout the world. In Australia, there are Zambians who are employed by the mines who graduated from the Copperbelt University. When our universities were top-notch, what we should be doing is to ensure that the universities that are already there now, before we start building universities elsewhere, I mean, of course, for me, that I'm giving an opinion. And if within the collection of Tonse, someone will suggest, and because I know people suggest to people, because we want to compete with what HH is saying about this issue with the airports, we should be reasonable, we should be practical, we should not be misled by people who want to lie to people about university in every province.
My final reflection on the newspapers, and again, very quickly, we got to close, this time, is one, you've been quoted, as saying HH is importing former PF, which he condemns.
Yeah.
But he's bringing them, NUP and there's an alliance, and then we end very quickly on how are we performing as media people. There are a lot of complaints now that some private, forget about the public, media, that private papers are really dug in and showed their face, even in editorials.
Yes.
Very quickly on that.
No, I think that on the last point is very unfortunate. I do know that throughout the world, papers can take a position.
Yeah.
But I think that when they do take a position, they should make sure that it is not laced in bias and that you don't give the other opportunity for other people to answer. Now, if you start doing editorials which are unbiased and then people can't even make comments on your editorial, then you have done something very wrong. There was a time when the Post newspaper was king. And there used to be editorials which were very strong.
Yeah.
And at one point, I took issue with those editorials. And I started commenting on the editorial of the Post because I thought they were being very unfair.
Yeah.
And the first time, the first three letters, I think this was in 2013, 2014. I went to the Post themselves to try and get the Post to give me a chance in the newspapers to be able to challenge the editorial, because I think that in some cases it was just inaccuracies. They refused entirely. But at that time, the Daily Nation had just been, I think, established. And the Daily Nation took all of those and started publishing them in the Daily Nation because they felt that the editorials were unfair and untruthful. So sometimes we in the media have to be careful. We have to be balanced. So that is my view on that. Yeah. Then there is an issue to do with what I'm being quoted on. Look, the president is fond of saying Mundubile and Muhabi, those boys, they were part of the bad things that PF were, therefore don't trust them. Okay? Now, in answer to that, I have said, Brian Mundubile was provincial minister in Northern Province. Muhabi was provincial minister in Eastern Province. None of those positions were cabinet positions, first of all. We define cabinet. You can go ask. I know for you, you know.
Yeah.
Cabinet is defined as the president plus one.
Yeah.
It is purely advisory. If you are not a member of cabinet, you cannot be expected. First and foremost, if you are a member of cabinet, it doesn't mean that you have the job of the president. Okay? And if you are not even a member of cabinet, you cannot take responsibility for decisions that are being made in cabinet.
Yeah.
And even if you are in cabinet, suppose you are minister of as I said, suppose you are minister of Home Affairs, you cannot be evaluated for the performance of the minister of tourism. I understand what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You cannot be, if you are minister of foreign affairs, be evaluated for what is going on in the Ministry of Finance. Muhabi Zulu, our candidate at the top of the tickets, Brian Mundubile, has never been president before. Muhabi Zulu has never been president before. For you to tell people that these people will not perform as president because they were part of the periphery of the last administration is being unfair. It's completely being unfair. So give the opportunity to Mundubile to be the president of Zambia, because I believe he's going to be a good president. As is regards the same comparison, again, is what you are saying. So Mundubile and Muhabi are dirty because they belong to the PF. But Chavinga and Mao Samba and this other person, I forget, are clean. Because
Chishimba
and so on, they are okay. It doesn't matter whether they belong to the PF or not. Again, you can see the thinking of an individual that maybe he thinks he's so clean that he's washed Mao Sampa or not, but just Mao Sampa. So that is the contrast I was making.
I would like to remind the listeners, that sorry, we're taking long on these issues, and this is their program. Tonse, Epamosi, because they paid for it. And we should remind you that the views that are being expressed by my guest, his views and the Alliance, views, nothing to do with 5FM. You'll have a bit of time for calls, later on, after we have, debunked economic issues. Before finally we go on the break and then, come back. My relative, Fred, has no good things to say about you, opposition, specifically, I think, Tom said that, look, removing this government and replacing with you guys in the opposition really doesn't take the country, forward.
Yeah. No, I think that it's very unfortunate that Dr. Membe is saying some of the things that he's saying. Again, some of the things he's saying are very similar to what HH is saying about the former administration. But as I have just pointed out, I think that it is not fair to brand Brian Mundubile as being the person who should take the whole entire weight of the previous administration. Now, obviously, I don't want to create an impression that the PF was all bad. I don't want to create that impression. And anyone who wants to create an impression that the PF were all bad, they would be dishonest. I think that the presidency of Michael Sata achieved some enormous achievements.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that the presidency of Edgar Chagwa Lungu achieved some enormous achievement, and some of them are visible to see. Many of them are visible. Infrastructure, some of the greatest things we should congratulate Edgar for is the Constitution of Zambia, which put in a 50+1, which put in a date and things like that and so on. And he was a very humble person. But there is no administration in the world, whether it is Kaunda's administration, whether it is Chiluba's administration, whether it was Mwanawasa's administration, for which everything they did were above approach. Okay? There are some issues about the PF which the Zambian voters said this and this and this, we do not agree. And I do know that on many of those issues, on cadarism, for example, just the other day, Mundubile was at a rally in which he undertook that there will be no abuse of people by cadres.
Yeah.
He made an undertaking because he realizes that at one point, I think that there was less control in it. So he's made it. There was a time, there's a picture of him where he went, I think, in Luwingu and guarded and asked for forgiveness for those things for which the PF had not done very well. Because he acknowledges that there were certain things which the PF didn't do very well. Okay? And when people are able to acknowledge, to apologize, to say we will do things different, you have to take them for their word, because he was not the one shooting everything. He will now be the president of Zambia. And when you are the president of the republic, you do according to your character. And as I've said on another program, Honorable Mundubile is a very polite man. He's a very consultative man. He's a very simple individual.
Yeah.
He works within a group. All of these completely different from our current president, who thinks that he's the only one who knows, that every one of us should gather when he arrives, that he's the most educated ever, that he's greater than even Kaunda, because he says it. He will say saying, oh no, me, since independence, he's always comparing himself with all the other presidents. He's not even had 5 years. And he wants to compare with people who gave him the education. That is, as I've said, it is being self-absorbed. So let us shift, people of Zambia. Look towards someone who is moderate and is a good guy. And I can tell you that Mundubile and Makebi Zulu are not tribalist.
This is the Thursday edition of the banning issue, a paid for, program. So, the views that are being expressed, they have nothing to do with 5 FM. I'm just here, driving the show. When we come back, we'll spend about 15 minutes, from my colleague, my guest, to debunk some important, economic, issues. Join us very shortly. But let's take a breather, us, my guest and I, being Christians, let's drink a bit of water and gospel music.
Yeah.
Praise, worship. Let's go. The Thursday edition of the burning issue. We're broadcasting, from Lusaka, and we're covering, most parts of Zambia, and we're live on BMTV. Like I've said, this is a paid-for, program. Any views, don't attribute them to me or 5FM. Attribute them to Tonse Pamosi Alliance. This half, I think about 15-20 minutes, will cover economic, issues. Then hopefully we will have a bit of time to open the lines. I'm with my guest, Muhabi, Lungu. Right. The starting, point is the 4%, growth and other macroeconomic, indicators, which the UPND government are saying they've achieved, and the contentious $6.5 billion in reserves. Have these achievements changed the lives of ordinary Zambians, or are they stronger on paper than in people's pockets? We'll really have to be fast, and I'll try and combine, some of the questions, Related to that, the government says the economy is recovering, yet many households continue to struggle with the cost of food, transport, electricity, housing, and other essentials. Why do positive economic indicators appear to tell a different story from people's, daily, lives?
Okay, great. Look, economic indicators are important, okay, because they give us a fair assessment of what the health of the economy is. And I say a fair assessment.
Yeah.
But sometimes economic indicators can be completely off the mark in terms of the real lived experience and the welfare of people within the economy. It is very possible that indicators can give you an indication of a healthy economy when the inhabitants of that economy are actually not healthy. And economics actually recognizes this. Economics, the study of economics actually recognizes this. So in one side, there are macroeconomic indicators, which are not the only ones. On the other side, there are other indicators which are more pointed towards the welfare of people. So I have shared with people that there is what they call the Living Conditions Monitoring Survey or survey that Zamstats or Central Statistics has always been doing. We started doing it in this country in 1992, and every so periodically you are supposed to go out there in the community and you ask him questions about whether they've got access to, say, cheap electricity, whether they've got access to affordable housing, whether they have got access to other amenities and services in the community which are vital for them at the first level when they get out of their houses, whether they have got access to affordable groceries. When you go to the grocery shop, are you able to fill your basket and so on? And you will find that when those indices come, many times are at variance with the macroeconomic indicators. There is a study which is done by JCTR called the Food Basket and Nutritional Basket, which looks at how much money does a family of 5 require to minimally get by. And it's not even to have a wealthy life, to minimally get by. And they have ascertained, the last one was that you needed 12,000 kwacha for a family of 5. Okay, and they select a number of important items to put in that basket. And so you ask yourself, how many Zambians today are able to get 12,000 and per month? Okay, what is the average income of even a civil servant per month? And you will find that there is a misalignment between the real lived experience of people to the economic macro indicators. There is also what they call the health demographic survey, which is supposed to go out in the community to ascertain by economists and people who are trained to do this, whether people have good access to healthcare, which is adequate. All of those are parameters which are most important to people: housing, healthcare, food. And those indices gives you whether your macroeconomic indicators are actually trickling down to the people. And to show that this is not something that is not akin only to what Brian Mundubile said, both HH and others in the past have said the words, "We do not eat figures."
Right.
Okay. Now let me flip it again, just for people to understand further. Others have equated it to vital signs. The macroeconomic indicators can be equated to vital signs. You know, when we go to the hospital, we are taking our temperature, we are taking our BP, we are taking about our height, and so on and so on. And this was an analogy which Dr. Msokotwani used, that it's like this. And I wanted to point out that even in those issues, I know that many times people know that all the indicators of someone might be okay, but a person 2 months down the line may be dead.
Yeah.
Or even a week later, I have come to people, people is recovering, everything is okay, then the person is dead. You know why? Because sometimes those indicators do not go deep enough to determine whether there are internal injuries, whatever, and so on and so on. So it is just life. So you can't say, but the indicators were okay, why is a person dead? The macroeconomic indicators are okay, then why are people complaining? Many times over, people have voted out a government even when all the indicators were correct. Such is the case in 2011. You know, the macroeconomic indicators in 2011 were better than they are today.
Absolutely.
They were much better.
During Arabi, isn't it?
During Arabi's time.
Brilliant economy.
The economy was
the best.
It was growing at 7. One of the IMF reports, I think, said 7.3.
Yeah, almost 8.
The UPND has never reached that level. Yeah. The exchange rate was when Arabi left office, it was actually 4.8 to the dollar. It is now 19. Yeah. The debt, which they are boasting about, not that I'm dismissing it, I'm just giving you a comparison, was I think 1 point something close to 2 billion. Okay, the debt, it is now 16 billion. Yeah. Okay. We had a single-digit inflation, and the economy was buoyant. Why did Arabi lose? Because many people in Matero, in Shangombo, in Katete, in Kasama, were not able to feel that to the same extent as those of us who had jobs were feeling it. Because GDP is not an indicator of how that GDP is shared.
Right.
Okay,
we have to move.
Okay, good. Yeah. So,
what would you differently?
Brian Mundubile already said it, and what he said in that video, which they're trying to vilify him for, was very correct. He said, okay, not by inflation figures. We're not saying inflation figures are not important, but he said our number one priority will be to look at whether you are feeling the impact of what we are doing before tayamba kukamba chizungu chitari. That's what he said in Yimba. Secondly, before tayamba kuyenda kuli bazungu kwachita boast that inflation is this, and we will make sure that it has felt you. That is the difference. And in economic management, it is true there is that differentiation. Some people are overly concerned, the right wing, with parameters. The left wing is concerned about people.
Right.
Yeah.
30 seconds on data restructuring, which you say they've been boasting about?
Yeah. As I said earlier, I think I did say we covered this a little bit when I was here last. And I had said that when people acquire debt, it is obviously a bad thing. A responsible person begins to deal with it to see whether you can restructure it and pay back your debt. Okay? And this was the same with the previous administration. They had started this process of restructuring the debt. And actually when Mutati was Minister of Finance, okay? Since he's with them, I think he should have been bold enough to tell them that we actually started this.
He says he was, fired because he was stopping PF, administration from irresponsible, financial management. That's what he said.
He says he was stopped.
He said he was fired in PF.
Yes,
because he was trying to stop Lungu from irresponsible financial management.
But even the other ministers continued with trying to negotiate for debt. Dr. Walyangandu also continued to try and ensure that the debt was restructured. When the UPND came, they had found a process which had already started, and that is factual. Okay, and I think that to say that a person who is drowning, let's say, is not trying to save himself, is being dishonest.
Right.
But I just wanted to finish it by saying, look, being successful at restructuring a debt is something that would have happened anyway, even if the PF had continued, because it is not in the interest of the lenders to lose their money. Okay, so they will do everything possible to ensure that a debt is structured so that they get back some money. It has happened in this country before. Even the HIPIC, there were certain elements of the HIPIC which were not forgiven because it was hoped that because the other multilateral and bilateral, that the country would have greater fiscal space in order to deal with some of the other debts. So yes, we give them kudos, but I believe that it nevertheless would have been restructured anyway, and there was a realization from the previous government that certain things were not done correctly.
Another plus, according to UPND, is that the investment portfolio has risen, 100-fold, especially in the mining sector, and that if you guys come into government, you will erode investor confidence.
Well, I give them kudos for foreign direct investment to have increased, except that I give these kudos in conditionally, and there are two conditions which I think are important to look at. The first one is that the number one basis upon which investors within the mining sectors choose to invest in a country is usually the price of the commodity on the international market. Okay? All the times, the price of copper on the international market now is the highest it's been in decades. It's 11,000, 12,000 metric tons. It used to have between 7 to 9. During some periods, it even dropped to 5,000 metric tons. So the thing that is driving investors to begin to look for opportunities, because they know their rate of return is going to be very high. They don't like to say this. I said it to you, I think last time I was here, that President HH was boasting about some mine which he says had become dormant for 40 years. And when he came, his magic ensured that it started operating. And I know something about that mine. I know that it had something to do with someone I have known for a long time, Muhabi Lungu, who had it during the UNIP days. And I'm aware of that mine. And there are some times when I had discussed with him about possibilities in investment, even when I was at ZDA. And even then, I have said that there are certain mines that are not feasible 30 years ago because the technology was not available, the prices were low, and other issues to do with the ownership structure of that issues. So again, even then, you have to weigh that according to that. And lastly, as I've said before, in 2011, I was director of investment promotion at ZDA. And I happen to have quite a detailed knowledge of pledges that are being made by investors. And there is a big difference between a pledge that has been stated and a pledge that has been actualized. And every year, at the end of the year, as director with my team, we used to do an assessment as to the amount of money or the amount of pledges that were made at the beginning of the year as to the ones that have actually been actualized by the end of the year. And the trajectory was that you had an actualization rate of between 5 to 10%. Because we sometimes, the officers, are overzealous to tell our bosses that there's been an enormous amount of investment when they are just pledges. And sometimes we even change figures. If people say that, no, the cost of this project is 5 million, you say, no, don't you think it can be 7 million? So you can inflate the figures. And that is done all the time. Okay, now, the proof is in the eating, or they say the proof of the pudding is in the eating. If you look at the quantums that have been produced over the last 3 years, in terms of mining, it has been 800 something, sometimes 700 and something. And you compare the total volume of productivity to, say, the last 3 years of the PF, you will find that the last 3 years of the PF equally had production in the same range. Okay, so whatever investment that is being claimed, it hasn't so far yielded a production of 3 million. Okay? And as I have said on other programs, the targets that we had put forward in terms of producing copper over 1 million and up to 3 million were not targets which were created by the UPND. They were targets that were already there. I used to be one of the persons who used to be part of the team that used to write the economic report and some of these issues. So I am not speaking from a point of being an academic. I was at the Ministry of Finance. Am I saying what they have achieved is without any kudos? No, I've said that I am prepared to acknowledge that certainly in particular areas they have done well, and that every government should look to improving towards what you've done, but that we must understand that there are other factors other than the greatness of President HH of having a Midas touch. It is not a Midas touch. There are explainable reasons as to why in certain areas that these things have happened, but I give him the credit for pushing the idea. But for each credit that he takes, we have questions to ask about Mopani and KCM and how those mines were given into hands of companies which we can't even find. If you search, and for disclosure agreements which we are unaware of when they were supposed to take him to Parliament.
We got to move, quickly, so that maybe we'll have about 10, 15 minutes
for questions.
Of course, very quickly, in summary, on the economic, front, UPND generally is saying, they brought, economic development across, the country, Okay, we've talked about, teachers, health workers, but in general terms, they are saying they've brought economic development more than any government.
Yeah, well, this is what I was saying, that I think that just like it is expected that those of us who are now being told that they've done wonderful things are able to have the decency to accept in some areas, that they should also accept that some of their successes have been built on the backs of policies and foundations which were laid even by the PF. Okay? So, for example, they have boasted about CDF. They found it. They've boasted about social cash transfer. They found it. They've boasted about food for work. They found it. They changed some of the parameters. And they sometimes talk as if they're the ones who created these programs. And I want to say that Brian Mundubile and Muhabi Lungu will continue programs which have been useful and have worked in the Zambian people, like CDF. We may review it. They may review it because the UPND have said that they've upscaled it to 40 million to where they found it. The truth of the matter is that a lot of money which has gone to CDF on the books, and some of it has not even been spent, and there are reports to that effect, has just been a reallocation of monies which went directly to line ministries. So if you buy police vehicles for each constituency and you say this is something great from CDF, that money was used to go directly to the line ministry. If you buy ambulances, the ambulances will have still been purchased directly by the line ministry. It is the way you execute the resources that you have. And Brian Mundubile has said that all of these programs which we think are beneficial for the country will be killed. We will review some of them. It's in the manifesto, actually. We will review some of them with the aim of making them more efficient, with the view of making them tighter in terms of abuse by cadres. We will review them with the view of maybe also upscaling them in the areas where we think you are needed. So majority of programs that most governments find are usually already there.
Right.
And this money belongs to the people of Zambia.
Let's go to the campaign, starting from the premise, that the president of this country said there was absolutely no opposition. 4 months, the alliance, grows,
exponentially.
Where is this crowd, massive wave, of people, coming from?
Yeah.
What are they looking for?
Yeah.
Is what they're looking for being provided? Is the message, getting down? And in the same vein, your opponents are saying, don't read too much into a crowd.
Yeah. Well, to an extent, it's true that you can't read too much into a crowd, and that is on both sides, in the opposition and in the ruling party. Yeah. In fact, it's even worse in the ruling party, because they've got the resources, the manpower, the money to actually ferry people and make it a big crowd with people that have come all over the country because they've provided a gazillion number of buses and food, and they've even paid people to come, and so on. In the opposition is a little bit different, because the people are walking to the rallies by themselves. Like the rally we are going to have on the 17th. I think the date we are going to have the rally in Lusaka is the 17th of this month, which is next Friday. I believe it's next Friday we are going to have a rally. We are not going to bus people. Of course, there will be some people who will be lifted, but the majority of people will come on their own. And even though you might want to dismiss that those people are going to rallies, it is an indication of two things. The dissatisfaction of the voters against you, who is in government, and a support base for people who they were looking to save them. Okay? So many times, voters in this country, for example, many times voters have decided in part against the person who they don't want, and they've gone on the other side. Okay, and even this time, we have always been saying that many of the voters had already decided that they would not vote for the UPN and HH, but they didn't know who. And because partly the UPND were doing everything possible to obliterate the opposition so that it is not clear as to who the contender is. Fortunately, we now have a very clear contender. And they know it, because that is why they are not attacking Fred Membe or attacking Harikala or whatever. They are attacking Mundubile, because they know that people are going towards him and they are showing their support of him, and they are saying, please, give us hope as we started this program. And that is a reflection of what people are feeling, because they have now found a contender who they think that they can vote for.
Okay, the final question. I'll leave one or two, towards the end. I just want to put in, a couple of, calls. Some commentators, including private newspaper, sadly, no, that's not even the word. Unfortunately, they've referred to Brian Mundubile as unsuitable. In one of the editorials, one newspaper actually said the man was empty. I don't want to say much because I know the man, well. I mean, I think as a journalist, and I'm speaking for myself, there's absolutely no way I can label somebody who has served in the government, somebody who is a lawyer, somebody who is an accountant, as being empty. And some of those who were saying that actually have absolutely dismal, qualifications. Your comment.
Yeah, no, I think that you've said it very well, Frank. Mundubile is a master's holder in law. Okay? Mundubile is a chartered accountant. He's an ACCA. And that is the apex of accountancy. Okay? And dumb people don't get ACCA.
No.
People fail.
I know of my relative. We lived in England. We were there, I think, for about 8 years. And for 6 years, he was trying to pass the ACC.
Usually people who got ACCA are considered to be very clever and bright people.
Absolutely.
And that is the proof of the eating, in the eating. Beyond that, look, Brian Mundubile was appointed chief whip. He was appointed leader of the opposition. He has now won elections by people, and he is now getting the support of more than 40 political parties. He's got the support of Dr. Sebastian Copeland. He's got the support of Kapembwa Simbao, who is also a doctor. Okay, he's
and
got
Mbwili.
Yes, he's got the support of Mbwili. He's got the support of Shalakateka, of Sakwiwa Skota, of Aka Shambato Mbekusito Leoneka. You know who Aka is, and so on. He's got behind him people who have been in government, people who have been at the IMF, people who have who've been at the Commonwealth, Dr. Ponga, and so on. Really, are we also so blind that we should support a person who we think is unworthy or that is lesser than ourselves? It's quite clear that people have identified him as a leader and that he's a real deal. So this business of trying to portray him as someone who is incompetent is like what this young lady is doing against me. To tell lies that I've been fired. Where have I been fired? To be recalled after 7 years in the Foreign Service is not being fired.
Absolutely.
I was recruited myself to go to the UN by one of the top eminent diplomats of Zambia, Kapembwa, Ambassador
Kapembwa.
Yes, that is right.
Yeah,
brilliant man. And he's the one who recruited me. He said, look, I need good manpower at our UN embassy. And that's how I went there. And that's the same thing with Brian. He's very competent.
This is the third edition. Please don't blame me, and don't even blame my guest, because he has paid for this, airtime, and he's been kind enough, to give us 10, 15 minutes or so just to bring in, one or two, callers. I'm sure you know the number by now. 0955-221515, 0761-912496. Could I have my headphones? This is the Thursday edition of the burning issue at, 5FM and across the country. And we also on, BMTV. 0955-2215. Thank you for the headphones. Call us now. We got a few minutes, that we can utilize for our loyal, listeners. Good morning. Good morning out there. Please go ahead. Your name. We don't have enough time. Please go ahead.
Is it audible here?
Yes, John.
Muniankeko kozi nimvera ati mu 71 constituency simunaimike MP lelo Brian Mundubile bawina. How are you going to run that government?
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. 0955-221515. 0955. Hello, good morning.
Morning, how are you?
Very well, thank you. Very quickly, sir. We don't have enough time. Your name and question quickly.
Yeah, Mr. Lungu, good morning.
Good morning.
Muhabi, you are talking to Morgan.
To Morgan?
Yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead quickly, please.
Quickly is that, Mr. Lungu,
I know you are a son of Muhabi Lungu, but your point was also a minister. But for me, what I can say that the UPND have done a little bit, and it's very possible to beat UPND right now. From nowhere, Mundubile formed a party from PF, and now they are saying themselves, you are calling yourself as a new party, but the same image is from PF. But what they are going to do, what you have never done when you was in power, past 5 years. So for me, the point is that, and you are making yourself as a popularity and a threat to UPND. And these issues, what for me, my opinion, it's only my opinion. You are not going to win this election next month.
Thank you very much, for that, question. 0955-2215-15. 0955-2215-15. Good morning.
Good morning, Muhabi Lungu.
Yes, Mr. Proud.
Good morning, Frank.
Morning. Quickly, please.
For example, Muhabi Lungu used to be in embassy. Me, as a Dr. Proud, I want also to go in embassy 2026. So we are not going to allow the same people when Muhabi Lungu, when Mundubile to be in the government again. This is a kuchinjana. When you talk to tribe, UPND minister who are Tonga few, the whole minister come from Ruafura. We got a Kabuswe, Eobi Sinkandu, Peter Kapara, the vice president, Bonsa Watundush, Bamutoro Pili Bonsawa, when the Matambo wants. In the PF, you only have Ubalubinda, Najini Kapata. The rest, they were nothing. People, including in the southern province. So we got a Musogotwan. We got this man, Minister of Health Katem. All tribal are in UPND government. What we don't want you, sir, to come. Me, I don't hate you, your face, or a band, but your issue. Have we heard what you say? At Avavadi, Jaira Kucheme Ngombe is talking about prison. So I'm waiting to cabinet party Kangwa. That clause you say, let us pray every week, let us remove. It was a free. The person who put it, they are not following. How can you laugh at a person who are keeping in Ngombe? Everybody's got his own right to keep. The Pajam will say my mind. We talented. That happened, I gave my mind as it my contract, not good. As it take my contract, I gave my mind as it will come good knowing Nipuna Murida Kumain as it will follow MOP. Yeah, I apologize. How many leadership? Yeah, Kajabe, and I president MOP.
Thank you very much, Proud, and for that, 0955-221515, 0955-2215. Good morning.
Good morning, Uncle Frank.
Morning, your name, please.
My name is Elvis. I'm calling within Lusaka. Good morning, Mr. Lungu.
How are you, Elvis?
Please be brief. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much. I'll be brief. Mr. Muhabi Lungu, I just want to talk about the economy. For me, President Hakainde Hichilema has stabilized this economy. Remember, when we came from the PF, we were running on the negatives in everything. But right now, we are running in the positives. This is why President Hakainde Hichilema is saying, do not vote for the opposition because you end up going back to where you were. These gains we have accrued now are going to win out. This is why we, the people of Zambia, have resorted to voting back. Because we know that when you come, for you to settle down, Mr. Muhabi Lungu, it will take time. All these gains whereby the economy now is doing well, we have invested confidence in this country.
Could you wind up? Could you wind up?
Yes, I'm finishing. Then the mines have been revised. This is the president who has tried very hard to make this economy tick. So for us, we are going to vote him back so that he continues with what he has brought. Thank you very much, Frank.
Thank you. 0955 221515. 0955 221515. This is the Thursday edition of the Burning Issue. 221515. Good morning. Hello, good morning.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Very quickly, sir, your name and question.
I'm also fine. So giving the devil a surprise. Don't jump on the face. Calling from Chimora.
Sorry?
Sure. Thank you so very much, sir. Okay. I know Granda Kwan, Jindan Dokovat, UPND. You know, the party number of UPND. During time by Barisa Maka. Now, if we promises Badan the Kapuka 50 kwacha, a few or 12 kwacha, Mufundo 250. After was a porter. That's what I go at the first barrier and the Gansia Yabu. Kumbeja and Twaddy the support of UPND that seemed to change. So UPND will go at 2.8 back with the number. You know, the Fiapa one, the Bambia Vukadi, no for whatever UPND. The way of Yapo. Upon Turan and Gunibran to be the Zambia, not Chitama. Let me not go much further. Rest my case, I thank you.
Thank you very much. And I'm afraid those are the only calls we can squeeze in because we've run out of your time. And now this is just extra time, which the station has given you. Yeah, so you have got 5 minutes to deal with them.
Okay.
Yeah, then we can
so
close after
the first point I want to make is this to all of the listeners. For the last 3 weeks, I have been all over in terms of trying to give our view to this. And in some of the stations that I've been, the same individuals that have called here call me in those areas.
I know them very well.
Yes, and you can see
almost 30 years ago on Radio Fan. They've been around for a long time. I actually brought them as my guests.
Yes, and you did well. And the point I'm trying to make is this: that governments often lose elections because they create echo chambers for themselves, and they begin to believe the messages that are coming from people who they have hired to give a picture of what is going on in the real world. So I will answer to each of these just alone, but I just wanted to know that these are professional UPND people who have been asked to do this, and they are using words like we don't want. They are not the people. Mr. Proud, I know you Proud very well. He's a polite guy. I mean, once he found me, I've met him. He's a very nice guy, and he's very respectful. Last time I met him at Crossroads, he was going for a funeral, and I heard somebody shouting, "Mr. Muhabi Lungu," and he came over, and we had a very good car. So I know that Proud is almost an employee of the UPND. So he is not here to be fair about the comments I've made. His aim is to try to influence the general public to say that all these callers are making, therefore the UPND are very popular. That's how governments lose, because they create echo chambers. Okay, and the rest of the individual people here, they're just listening. And they're not stupid. The majority of listeners are just listening, and they will be able to assess themselves whether what I've said makes sense or not. They will not be influenced by my countrymen. Okay, so let me answer blow by blow. John, we have 70 seats that we have not filed in. My information gives me that we have not filed, I think, in 26. Okay? Not 76. So that's the information I have. And even in some of those areas where we have not filed, there's an independent candidate which is campaigning for Brian Mundubile as an independent candidate. But, and some are doing it very quietly because there are certain areas that if you campaign openly about Brian Mundubile, you can get your throat cut. And that's how bad it is. Okay, so that is not true. Again, it's a number which I have seen, and I think that it is by UPND people to make themselves happy that we are vulnerable. But that is not the number I have. Morgan says that I'm the son of Muhabi Lungu. Morgan, I am Muhabi Lungu. And, a lot of people confuse me and my father, especially people who are told about me. Like this young lady. I can see there's confusion. My father was called Mkondo Lungu. He's the one that worked in the UNIP government, was deputy minister, he was minister. But I started politics before my dad. My dad went further, okay? And part of the reasons why I didn't go further father was because my dad was a kingpin in Lundazi, so I had no outlet, and so on. But what Morgan was saying was to say that the UPND have done fantastic over the 5 years. I have acknowledged that there are some areas that certainly the UPND have you can say they've done well on programs which they found. But the core promises that they have made, and in other shows have been very directly, like the cost of living. At beginning, they were trying to give a portrayal that they had done very well. Now, after we punched a hole in their argument, they're actually accepting that they have not done well in the cost of living. And that is what matters most to the voters. Also, the issue of ethnicity will matter in these elections because people don't only vote. You know, Jesus, when he was being tempted by the devil in the desert, was offered all sorts of sweet things by the devil. And he said, man does not live by bread alone, but on every ounce of the spirit. And the spirit here is that I have to feel that I belong to this country. And if you make me feel that I don't belong, I may not vote for you, even if you provided CDF and you think that your CDF will bribe me. If I feel that I'm not a part of your administration, I'm not going to vote for you. Number 3 is proud. He said he too wants to be in the embassy. This is not about us as individuals. And for me, I'm not doing this because I want to be in the embassy. I am not going to lie that if the Mundubile government wins, that I would not like to be included in some position so that I can continue to help my country and that I can also get a salary. I'm not going to lie because other people can lie. But it's primarily not the reason why I'm doing this. And I have done this for the last 35 years of my thing. Half was for me as a technocrat, half has been in politics, and for most of my life, for me as Muhabi Lungu, I've been in the opposition. You know that. I've always tried to defend my country and to hold government accountable for the bad thing that they are doing. Absolutely. My fear is that HH, if he wins this, is going to take us to a further dark place in terms of ethnicity and in terms of constitutionalism and in terms of making sure that the owners of this economy in our country are foreigners rather than the individuals. So that is the reason why I think Elvis, he stabilized the economy. No, I can't dispute those figures, and I've not been disputing them myself. All I've been saying is that the macroeconomic parameters are not the only one that matter. But even then, you have to remember that the last 2 years of the in fact 2019 2020 and 2019, the world economy all over the world collapsed because of COVID. There was no single economy that was unaffected because of COVID. And here also, for the 2 years before an election, there was COVID. So one of the reasons which hits the PF was actually an external matter called COVID. So to compare the figures in a non-COVID area with a COVID area is actually comparing an apple and an orange. And people must take that into consideration. Even the default of the PF during that, it was during COVID. So I thought that those were important issues. The guy from Chingola, we are on the same page, and the other guy, I'm grateful.
My last, question, apart from your quick message, all this rolling into just 1 minute. What is the major interest of the electorate in this election, and what is the major interest of the region and internationally? Because we are not an island, geopolitics is very important. Very quickly, those.
No, I think that the electorate themselves want to have a government which listens to them. They want to have a government which is not constantly talking down to them. They want to have a president who is going to see them as human beings, not as voters who you can antagonize to feel injured so that you can injure other citizens in the country. The majority of voters want us politicians to fulfill our promises that when we have the instruments of power, we are going to make sure that their living conditions are improving and not getting worse, that we feel free in our country to speak and not being frightened by the police, and with cybersecurity laws. We want to be free. Zambians love freedom. And if there's any time that Zambians have felt frightened and constrained and looking over their shoulders and not being sure whether they should say who they are by their name, it is the last 5 years. So they want all of that gone, and that is why many of them are flocking towards the contender, the chief contender, the only contender, in fact, who has got brilliant chances of winning. What about the international community? Look, in as much as we are talking about figures, in as much as we are saying that these people that are there are going to go and communicate Kuliba Zungu, the IMF and all on, it doesn't mean that we in Tonsi Pamoja Alliance are saying that we do not understand the important role that the IMF and the World Bank plays. We do. Okay? We think that we will be able to sit down with the IMF and the World Bank to be able to balance between macro indicators, between inflation and all those economic fundamentals which we think are important, but in relation to the impact that it is delivering with people. We will be responsible people. Brian and his running mate are responsible people who in their own personal lives have lived responsible life and of good character. As to the issue of ownership, investment, in as much as we have been very strong to say that Zambians should have a greater stake in their resources, that Zambians should have greater incomes coming from the mines, we are not saying that we are going to be unfriendly to foreign direct investors. We are not saying we will ensure that we create an environment by which foreign direct investment is comfortable and is unfrightened and it's partnering with the locals. So we will continue to pursue this process because it is in our manifestos that are there. We will be able to be part of the international global community, except that we will take a position of non-alignment. We are not going to take one single position to say, no, we should be directed on what policies and what directions we should take at the IMF. No. So some of these things in the remaining 4 weeks that are there, you will see that the ticket will be more aggressive and now addressing the issues that are in our manifesto.
All of the